Okay, so today is August 21st, 2025, Build Work Group meeting. Thank you for joining. Let's go through the list, see what do we have here. So, first item on the list, update infrastructure providers list.
Yeah, I forgot that I volunteered to do that. So I did not add that to the OpenJS Foundation infrastructure project board, so I didn't see it on the list. So I haven't done anything on that yet. But it definitely, everything is definitely out of date. Need to remove providers that are no longer providing and add providers that are, and make sure that that's in
Okay.
sync with reality. But
I
I'm adding
guess
it to the OpenJS board now.
I know there's some work going on, I think, at the website level to display sponsors and partners. The stuff we've got on the build repo, I think part of the challenge was that there's a big single, can't remember what format it's in. There's a big like image that has like all of the logos all in the one image, which I guess would be fiddly to update, or maybe it's better to have
Oh,
separate. But it's all kind of like, yeah, it's definitely out of date. But I think there's some work involved in fixing that, and making sure that whatever the current state of things is current, and the ones that we've agreed. And I guess then the interesting question will be that if we're using anything that isn't on the on the supposed official list, then that's a gap. I guess we would need to make sure we cover in terms of things like agreements with the providers and such.
Okay. Next item on the list is our current work that's going on for upgrading the compilers. I know Richard is busy on this right now.
Yes. I have been working for the last week on the RHEL machines. That's Relate and RHEL 9 machines. And then I did hit some issues on Linux on S390 and Linux on Power that both needed some fixes in the main Node repo before we could actually build them with CLang. So those have now landed on the main branch of Node. There is one PR I've got open to do with single executable application tests that for some reason are failing when we build with CLang, but aren't failing when we build GCC. The odd thing there is a different PR that sort of touches that code area where the tests pass if we build with CLang. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and land the PR to skip the tests, then try and land the PR to switch to CLang, and then I'm actually out of the office next week, and then sort of I'm back in September. But in September I'll look at the skips again, and if we don't need the skips, I'll revert them. Otherwise, we'll leave them in there. But yeah, the only thing stopping me switching the builds of main to use CLang on RHEL is those failing tests. So I don't want to switch the builds over and then make everyone's PRs fail. So I want to make sure the tests are still passing prior to us switching over. So yeah, RHEL should be resolved within the next weekish, and I then think the remaining platforms will be the Ubuntu based ones and AX/IBMI/SmartOS.
Okay, good to hear. Next item on the list would be machines at OSU.
I think we can probably take this one off the build agenda. It's for now they're not at risk. The issue is at first OSU OSL was eating budget to continue operations, and they solved that. But then there was a different issue that was they have to move data centers. The university is no longer allowing them to continue in their data center, and they have a plan for moving data centers, and the main question was whether that was going to affect us or not. And the stuff that we have should be unaffected during the move. Like I think they were going to just move VMs for most of the stuff. Although there were some things, there would be some outages. So I think there will just be an outage tied to this, but it won't be. Yeah, that's the AIX LPARs. I don't know anything about AIX, so I can't speak to what that even means.
An LPAR is like a virtual. I'm trying to think what the equivalent would be on another. It's effectively an ability for the the physical AIX machines to have like virtual machines. It divides up the physical resources into virtual allocations. So it's a way of containerization at a sort of OS level rather than application level.
Yeah.
Yeah, AIX, we do have IBM Cloud machines for AIX, so we could actually tolerate a short-term outage of the OSU hosted AIX machines. So I'm not too concerned as long as the outage isn't lengthy.
Great.
If it was a couple of weeks, we're probably okay. But if it was months, then we'd be looking at that as well. I mean, we're probably okay, but it's the capacity thing.
Yeah. Great. The other potential risk there with OSUSL is, they will probably still continue to need to ask for budget in years and try and figure out how to, maintain their operations. And in another issue, which the replace works on ARM machines, it's kind of two down. We've been discussing the potential of actually hosting physical machines from ARM at OSUOSL. So, I mean, that would give them a little bit more revenue, I think, but also sort of puts more dependency on them if we, and it kind of puts all of our ARM resources in that OSU OSL basket. And, so it's riskier. I don't know if we should do that, but that's the only avenue I see to getting sponsored machines for this project, on an ongoing long-term basis, at least as far as we know, so.
Okay. All right, but I've also removed it from the agenda because I guess we don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. So next one would be potentially transitioning to, I think we talked about this as well last time, and we wanted to remove this as well.
Perhaps.
Because
yeah.
There was not much to be done here. So I'll just get rid of this as well. Any new topics we want to talk about this, or nothing has happened?
Nothing's happened on there. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just leave it as is then. Next one would be replacing works on ARM machines affected by Equinix Metal Sunset.
Yeah. They were supposed to shut off our machines 2 weeks ago, and they haven't yet. So we're lucky there. I provisioned a machine this morning, and I'm starting the work to stand up some ARM resources in the OpenJS Foundation Azure account. We have a little bit of budget in there that we can host a couple of machines. They're not going to be as big or as powerful as the machines that we've had before, but I'm looking at them, and I think one of the machines is not working properly because if I go and I look at the some of the builds, the 1, 3, 5, and 7 machines are passing, and the 2, 4, 6, and 8 machines are all failing, and they're all failing in the same way. And I'm not sure if it's just a configuration issue or what. So also those machines have sort of VM bloat. Like there's 8 containers that are all the same node type, and we don't have that level of capacity with any other thing. So it's kind of like extra capacity that can't really be used, because if we had that many builds going, they would be just waiting on other machines anyways. Like, so it's not like having a huge burst of capacity there is really all that saves us much. And those machines aren't utilized that often. Like 8 to 10 builds a day is what I'm seeing on most of these containers. So I think we'll be able to get by. I'm gonna start them up. I've got the 8 vCPU, 16 gigs of RAM, 120 gigs of disk, and I'm planning on creating 3 of those on Azure, 2 of them for test, 1 of them for release, and see how it goes. To see, just kind of how our capacity works on these sorts of things. What I'm not sure of is the debug builds, whether or not those are super resource intensive or heavy, because I haven't really watched or paid attention to how those are working. So Richard, maybe you can advise like, oh, that's never going to work, or they use tremendously more
Um,
memory or something, or
I can't remember. I think they do require more of something, probably memory.
Mhm.
There's an OSU test machine um, where it's been a while since I set it up. I'm pretty certain I'm not running debug builds on the OSU machine because it has less of everything.
Yeah.
Probably similar to you to what you're doing with the Azure temporary things. I think I also have less of the virtual machines running on it. So like you said, we have quite a few running on the Equinix ones because the Equinix machines are just larger. So I think when I set up the OSU one, it had less VMs running on it and less, and I kept the debug builds off it.
Mhm.
But I'm trying to remember if it was specifically resource constraint or it could have been that the builds just took too long.
Mhm.
Yeah, because the debug builds I think take longer than the release builds.
Yeah.
And it could have been so it could have been either or a combination of being resource constrained in terms of it wouldn't actually build with smaller amounts of memory, or it may have also been like, well, it could build, but it took so long that it was impractical for regular CI use. But yeah, it's been a while, so I can't remember. I do remember that it was set up to be a lot smaller than the the stuff at Equinix.
Yeah.
In terms of release machines, the release machine that we've got for ARM is hosted at OSU, so it's not.
Oh, right. We don't need a release machine.
Yeah, we don't strictly speaking need one. I mean, if you've got spare capacity, that's great. But if you're working on limited credits, I would suggest not using those
Yeah.
credits for the test side rather than the release side.
Right.
Yeah, well, it used to be Equinix Metal, but then they retired the machine type that was on, and then they said, "Well, we're not going to give you any more. We're not going to give you another Equinix Ampere Ultra." So they said you'll have to find somewhere else, and that's
Got it.
why we went to OSU to get an OpenStack instance from which I carved out one release machine and one test machine. So
Got it.
we've got a small amount of resources at OSU for ARM where we've got the release thing was the critical stuff, and then the leftovers I just set up for a test machine to have some spare capacity. And
Fortunately, it is our in case of emergency break glass, like if those machines were actually shut down when they said they would.
Yes, I mean I think it would have given it's only the one machine, and it was that one machine is much less powerful than either of the Equinix Metal machines. Had we fell back to that single machine, it would have bottlenecked the CI probably quite a lot, but
Yep.
they wouldn't have completely ground everything to a halt. So
Right.
yeah, it's whatever you can do to help that out on the understanding that those Equinix Metal machines are now way past the date that we were told they would go away.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well, they did only give us a month to, they were like, these are going away in May 2026, and then in July, they're like, by the way, we're shutting these off in August, and we're like, oh, okay, so we've been
well,
trying to jump.
They did point out that it was going to be in advance of May 26, but it wasn't until later on that they actually clarified how far in advance that was. So it was always it quite early on. It was it's not going to be May 2026. That's when the whole of Metal is shut down. It will be in advance of that, but then it wasn't until much later on that there was a sort of firmer date that was coalesced around. But yeah, I mean, I think we have to work on the basis that it could be switched off anytime. Anytime. Yeah.
Okay, so one question on the stuff that's running on Equinix. There's 8 Ubuntu 18.04 containers. Do those
don't
do anything at all?
No.
Okay.
We used to, but then the node releases that used to build on those are now out end of life. So
Okay, so I can just delete all those from Jenkins and not
I
concern
believe
myself.
so, because I don't think there's anything in the CI now that runs on those. I
Okay,
think it's all
great.
done on
Yeah,
those,
there's no builds. They're not, nothing's tied to them building. So
yeah,
just,
it's something that we just haven't swept through and cleaned up.
and then the container, the hosts themselves, I should just be answering them as a Docker role, right? And then
Yes.
is there I don't remember the process by moving these containers over to the new machine and getting them set up there.
The Docker role will create the containers based on in the inventory in the secrets repository. There are stanzas in the variables for what containers to create.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's in the secrets repo. I was looking around for it, and
It's in the
like, how does this
secrets
get?
repo.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in the secrets repo. Okay, thanks. That was
And then you do the usual. You create the agent in Jenkins, and then grab the secret from that, and then put that secret in the secrets repo.
Yep.
You'll
To wire
see
it all up.
when you open the inventory, you'll see for the other Docker host, you'll see how they've been defined with there's like a one variable which is like the name that matches the template in Ansible to use as a Docker file, and then there's the usual, like, here's the secret to set the agent up with. But yeah, reach out. Well, I say reach out. I'm actually away after tomorrow, but it hopefully will be fairly self-explanatory if you look at what's currently there for the existing Docker hosts, like the Equinix Meta ones, for example, and it should map into things in Ansible. So in theory, as long as you've got the key on the machine and you can access it with Ansible, Ansible should be able to set the machines up with the whatever you do, whatever's defined in the inventory in the secret.
Okay. In that case, what we have now is four Ubuntu 22 base ARM64 containers on an Equinix machine, and then an ARM v7 L1. Yeah, it's an L. ARM v7 L1 Ubuntu container, and then a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 container, and then a Debian 11 container ARM v7L. I think so. That's sort of I'm going to cut the number of containers on the machine in half because I'm just not going to be able to fit 4 of them.
Do they still have the shared library containers, or did we get rid of those?
Let me see.
Because I don't think we ever put any builds
Well,
for any.
the only ones that say shared libs on them are Ubuntu ones.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Ubuntu 18 ones.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. So if you get rid of those, then that's fine. We aren't using those. 18 or otherwise, anything with shared libs in, we're not currently using the ARM machines for. So,
right,
so yeah, it sounds reasonable to cut them down to something. Yeah.
Well, so then there'd be 5 containers running on each machine.
Okay.
I don't know if the vCPUs is gonna do very well with all that, depending on how much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose the only thing to do is to try it out.
Yeah, because basically the way I'm looking at this is, OpenJS has some credits from Azure.
Yeah.
We're using some of that to run that unencrypted server. That's where that ended up living. The rest of it, I'm trying to squirrel away about half of it because I'm looking at our other credits for the rest of the Windows infrastructure, and they didn't give us enough to pay for the year. So we're about 10 or 12 grand short. So I'm trying to save some of it for that and then take the rest of it and give us a year's worth of ARM on Azure, just as a nice long buffer so that, we don't burn through the credits or anything. But, that should get us all the way through like May of 2026. If we have to use these credits to cover the Windows stuff and use, other things. So basically I'm saying, okay, well, how much money do we have left? That's how big of a machine I can build. is how I've sized these ARM machines. If that
No,
makes sense.
that's fair enough. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, if you were to ask me what do we need, I'd find that very difficult to answer.
Yeah,
Part of it is that we have basically expanded to fill the capacity we were given.
right.
And even at the Equinix metal machines, we used to have smaller machines, and then when they replaced them with the bigger machines, the stuff just scaled up to fill the bigger workload. I mean, what we did is we shunted those ARM v7 containers. Those
Mhm.
were originally being tested on actual like Raspberry Pi devices that uh,
Right.
a former member of this working group housed in his garage. So,
Yes.
we definitely don't want to go back to those days.
Mm-mm.
But again, it's just this like ability to absorb stuff. The ARM v7 stuff we are using in the CI, but for the older node releases. So the majority of the builds probably won't be running on those, but there will be builds running on those for the older release lines. So they are
Okay, so
used, but
those are
not as
mostly
much as
those are mostly older releases then.
the ARM v7 ones are, yeah, mainly because we couldn't get Node to build on them for Node 24. But yeah, the ARM64 containers would be the more heavily used, but we do need the ARM v7 container.
So no, is Node 24 not going to support RV7 or do we
It
not need
doesn't. It
that?
doesn't at the moment because we can't build it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We couldn't get V8 building on it, so for Node 24 at the
Ah,
moment, no ARM v7. But if someone is able to fix the builds, then we might consider putting them back. But at the moment, not being able to build it and no one able to sort of volunteer suggestions as to how to fix it.
right.
We could maybe reach out to ARM, given we had a meeting with what was his name? Yeah, we did have a meeting with the folks a couple of weeks ago, and they did
With
say that.
Boomic, yeah.
So I mean, that might be something you do, but at this present moment in time, the Node 24 builds are not building on v7. But that's mainly because when we were upgrading v8 for that, we couldn't get the builds to work on it.
Okay, and those are ARM v7. That's basically like Raspberry Pis and infrastructure things kind of stuff, or like
it's 32-bit ARM.
32-bit ARM. Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a specific ARM. I can't remember the technical word for it. It's like a profile of architecture instructions.
Yeah.
So you've got ARM6, which is I think like Raspberry Pi ones, and then ARM v7 is like the later Raspberry Pi and other ARM devices, but it's an instruction set type thing. So
yeah.
V7 32 bits?
v7 is 32-bit, yeah.
Yes.
Then,
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, I mean, we could ask ARM, but is there, who are the users of that v7, and can we put the word out that like, hey, we're going to drop support for this if we can't get testing working on it, or
we already
have,
did drop support, so
and no one stepped forward, and okay, well,
yeah, Node 24 went out in April, so
okay.
it's out there, and no one has really asked or mentioned or complained bitterly about it. So I'm sure there are users. Tends to be people who are using Raspberry Pis or something. But I guess it really depends on what operating system you're running on your Raspberry Pi devices and whether you actually need a 32-bit build, or if you're running a 64-bit OS now, you're probably happy enough with the 64-bit builds. But there's always someone out there that's running on something ancient and then still trying to run a new node with ancient everything else. So
Yeah,
it's kind of, yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the next item would be infrastructure for Orca. Anything else?
yeah. This I should probably close out this issue and document everything that's been going on there, and then focus on the other issue, which is Orca's been upgraded. We've got new infrastructure in place there. We're able to build the new 10.14 and 10.15 images. That was sort of a blocker for that. But what happened is it cratered the whole system, and none of the images would start. So I had to reconstruct those, and they have now been reconstructed. I've just been focusing more on the works on ARM machines disappearing as opposed to this. So that's sort of a higher priority. But have not. There should be a different issue that we should probably mark as build agenda and unmark this one. Let me. There it is. Add 4083.
4083.
Yeah. Here, I'll add it in. There.
Okay. We should focus on this. Do you want me to remove the build agenda from here?
Yeah, that one.
Let's do that.
Yeah, sorry, I added the other one, but I didn't remove that one.
All right. Okay, so that's done. That's done. We'll talk about this next time, I guess. Anything else on this topic?
Nope.
All right, moving on. Next one would be extending Azure credits.
I don't know. This was a they sent us an email saying that like you're 80% of the way, but that 80% was actually accounting for all the credits they've ever given us, and so we've used up 80% of everything they've given us, and the remaining 20% is just kind of what we have normally. But this is still like we did not get granted enough credits to cover. We have about a $36,000 a year bill, and they gave us about 25,000. So that's where the to cover the other Windows machines using the OpenJS things. Now I have heard from Ben that there is some different stuff going on that may trying to remember the I don't know if this is even public yet or not, but or if there's I don't actually have any details, but we may be getting credits from Azure for other things as part of a different program. So we may have no concerns there, but we will. I'll keep everyone posted as we know more. But there is sort of we should not have any more problems at all with Azure resources in the future, hopefully.
All right. Next one would be, do you want me to keep this, by the way, on the agenda, or do you want me to remove it?
Let's remove it.
All right, let's do that. Perfect. Last one would be enabling Rust. So I left some comments about how we're dealing with this on RHEL and how we prefer to use packages provided by the OS rather than using the build scripts that's provided upstream by Rust. And because of that, there are some discrepancies. There's some differences between versions that are available, and we'll have to figure out, we have to change the code essentially to account for some missing libraries, or I would say libraries that don't exist between these different versions of Rust. So that's one change that we have to take care of for RHEL, PPCS 390X. And the next topic is I asked about nightly builds being enforced because of the Z flags and the features that are only available in nightly builds. And he mentioned that it's, to his knowledge up to this point, it's not necessary to have these features to build, to use Rust within V8. Temporal doesn't need any of these, yet they exist, they're there. So next thing I also have to do is make sure that these are not used. So we'll have to check how we can remove them and make sure builds move forward without having these available. Everything links and there are no test failures. So there's work to be done because of the difference that we have in between Rust versions provided upstream versus what we have. And since we obviously can't use nightly builds, we'll have to add these fixes. So that's my latest update. I'm waiting for everything on the client side to be finalized and finished, which Richard is taking care of. And once that is done, then we'll move forward to um, getting this resolved. I believe they're going to start using it soon by default on V8 upstream. I asked them if it's possible not to enable it on our platforms yet, PPCS 390. Node obviously doesn't use them yet, so we just have to make sure V8 stays green until we add these fixes, and then Node should be able to pick them up later. That's all I had. I don't know if anybody else has any updates on this topic. Nothing. Okay. I'll add some updates here later. Anything else we want to talk about? There's nothing else on the agenda.
I did find the it's the GitHub Secure Open Source Fund that they list Node.js as one of the beneficiaries. So I believe via that fund we may be able to get some more resources for build system. So we'll have to I'll see where that path goes. That was I put a link in our chat. Maybe add that to the agenda doc as a thing to look at.
Let me bring up the chat. GitHub. Okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? Do you want me to add comments or?
No, I just pulled out one thing out of the how the secure open source fund works. It says they also receive security resources to immediately implement in their project and Azure credits for cloud infrastructure. And I'm like, well, where are those? That's the who got those? So we'll.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything on the credit side. I think we did have people in the project participate in education that was funded from this.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't. Yeah, it was. Yeah, maybe Raphael might know. Raphael, because he's more on the security side of stuff, so he might know what's happening under that particular program. But yeah, I'm not aware that we had actual credits for Azure.
Yeah. Well, and if we do get actual credits, hopefully there isn't like somebody standing up a new Azure account with new subscriptions and new, like.
I mean, as far as I know, the existing stuff that the Node was using, not the Foundation account, but the Node account, that was mainly through like the JNA systems partnership or whatever that is. The relationship between Microsoft and JNA systems to support Windows on Node. So yeah, that's currently Stefan, but yeah, previously was Zhao. They would help on the Azure management side of things. So if you haven't talked to Stefan, maybe that would be another route to see it.
Yeah.
Even if it's things like if we need to be more mindful of the budget. That if it's because most of the Windows builds being run, that's Stefan looking after it in terms of what we're running where, and if it's that maybe we are in danger of like exceeding the budget of credits, then that might be something to make him aware of, to then decide whether they need, as a project, we need to get more credits, or maybe we need to scale back a bit on what's tested on the Windows side.
Yeah. I mean, ideally we can just strengthen this Azure relationship so that, Node.js's CI infrastructure is able to rely on it a little bit. I know that Azure and GitHub have been themselves in a state of churn a little bit, and their open source programs office has had, layoffs, and then people change and move, and what they're doing is all sort of a question mark. So, figuring out how to, but it would be nice if we could just rely on those ARM machines and be like, hey, we're going to stand up ARM machines and run them on Azure, and that's what we'll do for the next couple of years. That'd be great.
I don't know the numbers, but I do know that I think at one point we were under some other program or agreement or whatever the relationship was for the Azure machines, and then it was like, oh no, we're not actually going to put you in the sort of standard, or a more sort of formal program rather than whatever it was we were under. And then we suddenly got oh, you're running out of credits. Oh, you're running out of credits. And we went through a period where we kept going back to some Microsoft person to say, we said last time that we should be okay for a year, but now we're getting these alerts, and something was extended, and then we had to be extended again and extended again. So there's the whatever the intent was, and then there's the actual mechanics of we're in a system where we've got credits, and I'm sure all of these reminders are all automatic things rather than someone actually looking at any of this and saying what's actually going on here.
Right.
And I mean, from our point of view, operationally, it's like we just want to make sure that we can continue to do what we're continuing to do.
Right.
Yeah. And the sort of I don't know what will actually happen, whether that's a hard cutoff or whether it's a advisory kind of
right.
But like I said, I mean, that's exactly why part of the thing with these providers was to try and formalize the relationships a bit more to ensure that we can continue to do what we're currently doing.
No, and I'm just saying, with trying to formalize a relationship with Azure specifically has been challenging because Azure is a moving target. That's been the the thing.
So I mean, look, I don't know what Microsoft is currently like in terms of dealing with them. I'm quite willing to believe that maybe the Azure stuff is separate from the other parts of Microsoft that actually really want a Windows build of Node. That this would put at risk if we didn't actually have the resources to support it. And with a lot of these things, it's trying to get the right people and the right content. The right people on the same mailing list or email thread or whatever to get them to agree to what needs to happen to continue to do. Because we've had before where like the Windows and ARM builds at one point, they would like someone at JNA Systems were doing them ad hoc rather than as an official build. I mean, there are official builds now, but then we have people from GitHub saying like, we're relying on these builds for the actions. People running GitHub workflows, and it's like, could you build this thing for us? And it's kind of so I'm sure Microsoft as a whole want a Windows build of Node.
Well, and this is more than just this is more than just Microsoft's Windows builds. This is also like Azure resources for security, and like their So we and their GitHub, right? So it's
yes.
All right, but that's pretty much all we have there. Is that if we can expand that relationship and make it better and make it more stable, and that's all stuff we're working on from our side.
Perfect. Anything else? Any other topics? Comments, questions, concerns? Perfect. If not, then I can see everyone added their name here. Thank you so much. If there is nothing else, we can end the meeting, and we'll talk to you in 3 weeks.
Cheers.
Okay. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.